Welcome back to the Warroom, the AFC East edition. I'm Coach Wrather, your Sideline Journal, joined as always by the man with the metrics, Liam Carr. And listen, this division, it's pure mayhem.
Oh my goodness, Mason, you're correct. We've got the vengeful MVP in Buffalo, a quarterback resurrection experiment in New York with the Jets. Miami is melting underneath that South Beach sun. You know that they have that home field advantage. Well, they might have flipped the sideline around. They're melting. And New England, dude, has Vrabel arrived?
I don't know. We're going to have to see. And I mean, look, even going in that Division 2, Josh Allen's looking at the softest schedule of his career, and he's got to be licking his chops. And then you look at probably one of the biggest threats in the secondary, Jalen Ramsey. He might be gone and out of the division before week 1. And the Dolphins ship, it's sinking. We're going to break down each team. We're going to torch every schedule, and then we're going to drop our final records at the end of the show.
Hey, don't forget, since 2020, the Bills have a 24-6 division record. They do not lose against the other rivals. That's a dynasty and a slow burn, but something just feels a little off, man. Hey, and by the way, less than 100 days till the NFL season kicks off. Are you excited? I'm so excited, man.
Man, me too. Your wait is finally over. The War Room opens now. This is the War Room, presented by the Sideline Journal, where the film doesn't lie. Let's get to work. So we're deep in our 8-week NFL division shredder, and so the AFC North, we had quarterback dumpster fire. The AFC West, we had Mahomes and Herbert throwing haymakers, and now today the AFC East is serving up drama of its own. Can Buffalo keep the crown, or are they going to trade chaos, and will a coaching hot seat shake things up?
Yeah, I mean, week 1, we got the Bills-Ravens. That's going to be an electrifying game. Two powerhouses in the AFC going at each other. Jets-Steelers. It'd be interesting to see the Jets rebuild. And are the Steelers going to have Rodgers? Dolphins-Colts. What are the Dolphins going to look like? I think that week 1 we'll see a clear picture of what the Dolphins' season outlook is going to look like. And we're breaking down schedules, sniffing out storylines like Ramsey. Is he going to stay with the Dolphins, or is he going to go back to L.A.? And saving our record calls for the big finish.
Absolutely. So if we were to end this, you can let us know your early predictions down below. Who's going to run the East? Is Ramsey going to tank Miami season? Is Mike McDaniel really on the hot seat? Throw your takes at us on X, hashtag AFC East War Room. Your take, your tweet just might get memed by our meme lord, Liam Carr.
Hey, and also follow us on X. Smash that subscribe button on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram and jumps. Let's get rowdy.
So kind of opening up the show, we're going to look at the Buffalo Bills and, some of the key topics from their 2024 season. They finished 13-4 as their 5th straight AFC title, but they ended up getting smoked in the, AFC Championship game. Not really smoked. It was more so kind of down to the wire, but it's their defense that keeps getting flamed by Patrick Mahomes. And so Josh Allen, it's the story of his career. He balled out throughout the season in the playoffs and route to an MVP. Khalil Shakir, James Cook really developed and showed and came on the season. The defense played their balls off and kind of, looking at their offseason moves, it kind of shows what they've been doing with their defense. They re-signed some key secondary players. They shored up their defensive front. They went and got Joey Bosa out in free agency. They go and take Maxwell Harrison, someone that Liam had a really high grade on, a freakishly fast corner. And you kind of start to see the recipe start to build for what they're going to try to build off of their success from 2024 and carry it to 2025. And so then the schedule release came out, and everybody was all on that schedule because the Bills are favored in 15 out of their 17 games, Liam. So my question to you is, do you think that Allen is going to crush this softer schedule en route to his first Super Bowl win?
Man, it's way early to be talking about Super Bowl for the Bills and for any team. But, do they have a cakewalk this year? I mean, man, that AFC East, they're all playing the AFC North. And, looking at the AFC North, I would chalk up the Steelers right now and the Browns to be, W's on pretty much everybody's columns. But, they're going to play Miami twice. Miami's not going to be very good this year. They got the Patriots numbers. They're just way too dominant to really lose to anybody really this year. I don't really see, there's not a single Miami Jet or Patriot game where I'm like, they might have the Bills in this one. I think the Bills are just so good overall that Josh Allen will be just fine. He's going to lead this wide receiver room by committee. You know, the Bills are going to re-sign James Cook to where they're going to let James cook.
Let him cook!
Yes, sir. And look, I mean, Mason, I'm just going to go for it now. Look, don't tell me that the Bills are bad. All right? Don't think that they're the underdogs. You know, let's go through all through their they're starting with their tight ends. Dalton Kincaid is definitely an above-average tight end, and he's a very good tight end. And to have Dawson Knox as a tight end, too, every team would love to have Dawson Knox as a 2. Let's go to their O-line. Spencer Brown is honestly one of the best he's one of the best tackles in the league. You know, they got Deion Dawkins as well. He's above average. And then David Edwards, he's not bad as a guard. And their center, Connor McGovern, very, very good too. I think he's let up, I want to say he's let up maybe like 2 sacks this last year. But their D-line, Ed Oliver is pretty decent. Daquan Jones, not a bad defensive tackle, pretty consistent, clogging up that hole. But hey, I really want to talk about Greg Rousseau. He is a very good edge, 6'6", 266. You know, I was looking at some stats today. PFF has him ranked as the 12th best edge. All right, and you might be saying 12. That's not very good. Let's think about some of these edge rushers right now in the NFL: Myles Garrett, T.J. Watt, Trey Hendrickson. All right, to have this guy's name up there as 12, you know, there's a gap between those 3, but man, 12 is pretty good. Yeah, this guy's one of the best. And they just added Joey Bosa, like you said. He's not fantastic like his brother, but he's definitely still a threat. Now, when we get to the linebackers, that's when we see a little bit of a drop-off. You know, like guys like De'Arian Williams, he's a great run stopper, but his pass coverage is not very good. And then we got Terrell Bernard. He's another great run stopper, but a liability in the pass coverage. And the secondary, you know, like you said, Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky, that dude, he's going to be so good. He is so fast. But then they got Christian Benford. He ranked 5th out of 222 quarterbacks this last year. All right. Yeah. Taron Johnson allowed 46 receptions, which would have him ranked as 35th out of 222 cornerbacks, and he plays nickelback. So, you know, Bills fans complaining or not, some Bills fans might be complaining about how they don't have enough talent around Josh Allen, and some other Josh Allen fans might be saying the Bills aren't ready for a Super Bowl because the team around him is not very good. Listen, the Bills are just fine. In fact, they are really, really good. So to have Josh Allen as a underdog, or to have him as like he's carrying the team, this team is incredibly complete overall, and honestly, there's no reason they shouldn't go to the Super Bowl this year. With the Chiefs going down, you know, Ravens, Bills are the top 2 in the AFC this year.
And it's no, you're good, and it's pretty cool because we get to see that matchup literally week 1 of the season, Ravens versus Bills, Sunday Night Football. I'm already looking forward to it. Look at my chops. We're counting it down. There's only 100 days left. And I mean, you really touched on the story of what makes the Buffalo Bills the Buffalo Bills. They're not flashy. They play up in the East. It's cold. It's gritty football. But when you think of the Buffalo Bills, you think of Josh Allen. You think of a superhero quarterback that's 6'6", 250 that can make every throw and run all around the field. And so everyone thinks he doesn't have the talent around him. But what's great about the Bills organization is they might have the best PR team in all of football. You know, Von Miller's still on that defensive line. Joey Bosa's on that defensive line. Matt Milano was an all-pro at some point in his career. Ed Oliver was a first-round draft pick. Greg Rousseau was a first-round draft pick. That front 7 on their defense is elite. You go to their offensive line. Deion Dawkins has been a starter in the league for 12 seasons. He's had 6 Pro Bowl seasons at left tackle. You have Mitch Morse. I just saw a stat that I'll throw up on here so y'all can see it. Out of like 300 pass blocking snaps last season, he led up 2.3% pressures. That's elite from your center. You mentioned Connor McGovern. So, I mean, what you're going to hear from me as an offensive line coach is the foundation of your football team is the trenches. It's how you build your football team from the inside out. And that's why the Bills, come November, come December, come January, are able to sustain, they're able to grow, they're able to rise to the moment because their foundation is rock solid.
Yeah, and just because they don't have a name like a Max Crosby on defense or on offense, they don't have a wide receiver anymore. Like, they had Stephon Diggs, and they don't have like a Jamar. Imagine what a Jamar Chase kind of character would do with Josh Allen on the Bills, but they don't have that. Just because they don't have a name doesn't mean they're not good. You're as strong as your weakest link. And the Bills, overall, each position group is a solid above average. All right, and so they, like I said, they don't have the names to where they're going to attract the attention, but these guys are all dogs, and this is why the Bills have maybe their best chance yet at the Super Bowl. Mason, on recent news, I saw you post on the Instagram just a couple hours ago about James Cook controversy going on in Buffalo. What's that about? And am I hearing that Joey Bosa's injured? Are the Bills all right going into camp?
Yeah, it's a strange time of the offseason where everybody's looking and searching for news. It's OTAs, organized team activities, they're voluntary. Joey Bosa, he's a veteran, he's 31 years old, he's had a history of lower body injuries. I'm sure the calf injury is serious, and it's something that he's going to have to deal with and monitor for the rest of his career. But hopefully for the role they're bringing him in to only play in first and second down, to then let Von Miller, who's also another old but very talented edge rusher, can just rush on third downs. They're going to monitor his situation. But the more interesting one to me is what's going on with James Cook. So if you go back to where this offensive renaissance started for the Bills, you go back to 2023, Ken Dorsey was their offensive coordinator. Josh Allen was turning the football over a ton. They weren't running the football very well. Josh Allen was their leading rusher. And they fired Ken Dorsey, and they promoted Joe Brady. And Joe Brady, the first thing that he does is the next game, he hands the football 30 times to James Cook, and they win the game. And then you have their star wide receiver then, Stephon Diggs, start, moaning about it. But the point is Joe Brady, he built his offense around a physical, tough running game, and he is on quote saying that James Cook is the most important, vital piece of our offense. So you have that player currently not involved in your offense. He's starting to make drama on Instagram. He's starting to tweet Derrick Henry saying, you got to pay me what he just got paid. And you start to have some rumblings show up. Unfollowing the Bills, that whole deal, you know how it goes. And I mean, we saw the renaissance of the running back, Liam. We've been paying running backs recently. And my early prediction to resolve this situation is going to be is they're going to go to James Cook. They're going to be like, listen, Josh Jacobs over at the Packers got 4 years, $48 million, and he had no guaranteed money after the second season. We'll offer you the exact same contract. Sign it. They put him right around top 5, top 6 in paid and average annual value, which is what I think he is as a player. And it would also push his cap hits further down the line to where they would be over the cap this year or next year, and they can maximize this window that they have. So that's kind of the roundup on the news of it, Liam, but I'm curious, what do you think their season opener looks like if James Cook isn't playing?
James Cook is not playing. That changes really everything, because when he's in the game, he's such a playmaker. He's so versatile with the pass and the run that they're definitely going to need him to go against that Ravens defense that's just going to pound the Bills. I mean, looking at the game right now, I mean, that the Ravens defense with the Ravens offense, I think they might just edge out the Bills, and especially if James Cook is not playing, I'll bet all the house money on the Baltimore Ravens winning that one. But the Bills will probably. I'm really hoping to see this meeting again in the playoffs.
Me too. I think it's a really great divisional round snapshot in the first week, and so, guys, Bills Mafia, you're going to have to let us know. It's Highmark Stadium's last dance. You're going to the new stadium after this season. And if Josh Allen in the farewell, if he somehow leads your team, breaks the curse, wins the Super Bowl after 4 losses playing in a Highmark Stadium, does that push him into franchise savior mode? You'll have to let us know on X, tweet us at the Sideline Journal.
All right, guys, we're going to head on over to New York and talk about the Jets. Brand new year. We got brand new quarterback, brand new head coach. What are we looking at here? Last year, very disappointing, 5-12, missed the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers, times he looked great, times he looked awful. That offense was stagnant sometimes. Their defense stayed elite, averaging about 16.2 points allowed a game, which honestly in the NFL is pretty elite. Headlined by Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed, Quinnen Williams, CJ Mosley. That defense right there is pretty decent. They're losing DJ Reed to the Lions, but Sauce is still going to do what Sauce is going to do. And they're kept Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Alan Lazard. Garrett Wilson is a 1,000-yard receiver. This is in his second year, which is awesome, or third year. Breece Hall, just shy of 1,000 yards. He's starting to split that back room with what's his name?
Braylon Allen.
Yeah. Braylon Allen. Yeah, who is a solid back. So the Jets, disappointing last year, of course. Just like I said, at 5-12, it was an ugly 5-12, Mason. What about this year? Are the Jets, or is this the year they're going to finally make it back to the playoffs?
Well, for me, looking at the Jets, it's always been the Jets because they've had horrific ownership, very involved ownership. You've seen all the stories of Woody Johnson's kids literally comparing players to Madden ratings.
Yeah.
And if that's leaking out to that degree, there's some truth to it. But what can give Jets fans some hope is Aaron Glenn. He initially refused to take the job until they upped his money. They gave him freedom and leeway to do what he wanted to do. And I think what Aaron Glenn's going to come and do is he's going to come in and he's going to set a culture that's been missing. Because as much as Robert Saleh is a schematic genius, as much as Joe Douglas, the former GM, was a great talent evaluator, they were incapable of managing the personalities in the organization. So what you've got with the Jets right now is you've got a roster brimming with young talent. Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Alua Fashanu, Quinnen Williams, Armand Membu, Sauce Gardner. You start looking at all of those pieces. I didn't even mention Jermaine Johnson or Will McDonald on that D-line. You've got a ton of young, very talented football players. You've got a defense that every single season when the offense has literally been the worst in the league, they've managed to be top 10. So for me, looking at the Jets for this season, the way that they drafted, the talent that they have from last season, I think it's going to be a season that Jets fans can be really excited about because you have, through your schedule, the talent, the coaching staff, the makings of a 7-10, 8-9 season. You could be pushing for a wild card depending on some things shake right. And I think the question mark you can circle there on really what the ceiling of your season is what Justin Fields turns into. So my question for you, Liam, is do you think Justin Fields becomes the Jets' franchise quarterback?
Franchise quarterback is tough, and especially since he isn't drafted and he's, 3 or 4 years in. It's kind of tough to say franchise because, now he's definitely a veteran. He's a traded veteran. I really like Justin Fields. Liked him at Ohio State, and then with the Bears, and then with the Steelers, I never knew why they benched him after going 4-2 or 5-2. It just didn't really make much sense to them. The guy was cooking, and then they were like, Russ is gonna throw the ball better than you. So I think the guy's a decent ball thrower. Chicago doesn't know how to develop a quarterback, so if you're gonna pull up his Chicago stats, don't. Justin Fields being a franchise quarterback. No. I think they're going to have a great year, though. Justin Fields, as a fantasy football player, he's probably going to average 20 a game. He's going to run the ball well. Garrett Wilson's a great catcher. The wide receiver, I'm going to be honest, is not my favorite. Coming from a Packer fan, I don't think Alan Lazard is that good for what they've paid for him and given him. They don't have Tyler Conklin anymore, so their tight end I think is kind of missing. Breece Hall is a fantastic running back. I think they got some good weapons, but I want to talk about that O-line too because, Mason, I remember a couple of years ago that O-line was the reason they were losing. It was terrible, but then look at their center, Joe Tippmann. He's not bad. In fact, I think he's actually really good. Mason, I might go and rank him as top 15. And then at guard, you got Alua Vera-Tucker and John Simpson. They're very good guards. And then Tyron Smith, and they've just drafted Armand Mbambu from Missouri. These guys, these are looking to be a good O-line. So, after this season, during the season, I don't think there's going to be any excuses with the O-line. Can the offense produce? I think yes. But I also have them missing the playoffs because, look, they're going to get close because of their schedule. they start out, they're going to play the Steelers and the Browns before the bye, which those are too easy right there. And then they're going to, at week 14, they got the Dolphins, Jags, Saints. All right, and I'm going to mark that down as 5 wins already. All right, and they're going to play the Miami twice. I think they can beat Miami twice. So then now we got 6. And then can they steal a game for the Patriots? Can they beat the Broncos? Can they beat the Panthers? Can they steal a win from Cincinnati? And then can they beat Dallas and Tampa? Those are their games where I marked them as a possible win. Mason, I probably think you're probably disagreeing with me saying Dallas on there. I think Dallas is going to be, I'll save that. But anyways, I think the Jets are going to be pretty close to a playoff, but I think the Jets are going to jet to where they're just going to miss out.
Yeah, I think going back to something that you touched on early, there is, they're looking at their offensive line. I think last season it was coaching malpractice what was going on the offensive side of the ball. I think Nathaniel Hackett, the only reason he had a job was because of Aaron Rodgers. And when you have a 41-year-old quarterback, as much as great as Aaron Rodgers is, you're going to have more sacks because they're not as mobile, especially with the edge rushers that are in this league. You throw that in with a very incompetent, horrible, horrific offensive scheme around them, and they're out there just trying to figure it out. I think
holds the ball too much too. He holds it too long. So
absolutely. And I mean, just with the young talent they have on the line, you mentioned Joe Tippin, you've got Alua Fashanu, you've got Elijah Vera-Tucker, you've got Armand Membu, and so you have some really good young pieces there. But what a lot of people are not going to realize is that, yes, you hired Aaron Glenn as a defensive coach, defensive coordinator, defensive head coach. Who he brought with him is a very young, bright offensive mind and Tanner Engstrand to be his offensive coordinator. And his coaching tree is he started all the way back as the offensive line coach at San Diego under Jim Harbaugh. And what does Jim Harbaugh do with his football teams? He builds a big, physical, tough brand of football that is built around the trenches and the offensive line. And so he's coming from Aaron Glenn as the passing game coordinator for the Lions. And you look at the Lions and what is their team built off of? Running the football, playing great physical downhill gap scheme run, and then building play-action game off of that. And so I think Justin Fields is honestly going to go crazy, fantasy football speaking-wise, because they're going to have 10 to 15 designed runs per game for him built behind the offensive line, and they're going to marry their passing scheme with one half-field RPO reads to where literally they're going to call power right, same side power right. So you got Breece Hall and Justin Fields. They line up right there. You've got Breece Hall going down B gap with Elijah Vera-Tucker pulling. Justin Fields, he sees that Mike backer come up. He's going to pull it. He's going to look. He's going to see Garrett Wilson on a glance. And that's going to be how they build their offense. It's a very college-like offense. But for their personnel, young, talented, uber-athletic people, that's what they're going to do, and they're going to rely on their defense to win games for them. So over the course of their schedule, what I think is going to happen is I think the Jets are going to come out really, really hot because with an offense like that, it's hard to initially game plan for. But once with an RPO-based system, you start getting 3, 4, 5 games of tape on there, defenses are able to adjust, they're able to fit alleys tighter, they're able to change their techniques and stunt D linemen to screw up your RPO. And so I think you're going to see them jump out really early and fade late to where they're going to end up in a fringe wild card, maybe outside looking in, if that makes sense, Liam.
Yeah, I got you on that. And I really like Aaron Glenn. I think he's going to really set the tone. He's going to be a game changer to everybody. They haven't really had a good culture, definitely since Rodgers has been there, and then even before they were just the Jets, and then they bring in talent, but they didn't have any culture set. I think they're going to definitely have Aaron Glenn's going to be the guy. And you said I'm going to disagree with you on the start good, finish a little weak. I think they're going to start off it's going to be a little rocky as they adjust to everything. I like what you said about the offense. Justin Fields is probably going to average 60. His minimum is probably going to be 60 rushing yards a game, which for fantasy football, again, I think it's going to be a great fit for him. But then I think they're going to end pretty well looking at their schedule. They got Cleveland right after the bye. They're going to split with New England, I think. They got Baltimore and Atlanta but then you go Miami, Jacksonville, New Orleans, and then Patriots again. I think there are going to be some tough matchups right there that their running team, I really want to see them line up in a wishbone, Mason. Could you imagine Justin Fields under center and then doing a pitch to Braylon Allen and Breece Hall? Oh my goodness, that offensive line too, man. I don't know. They got too much potential, and I may have a soft spot for Justin Fields here, but I would really like to see him, really progress right here now that he's out of the NFC North.
Yeah, Barry Switzer's son there just hoping, praying, and wishing that somehow the Jets were running the wishbone in 2025.
Yeah.
Anyways, guys, so that's kind of the lay of the land with the Jets. You let us know, do we have it all right? Do we have it all wrong? Is Justin Fields going to be a franchise quarterback? Is he not? Is Aaron Glenn going to be your head coach for the next 5-10 years? Or are you going to have a season that you can build off of? Sound off. Let us know on X, YouTube, Instagram. Add us at the Sideline Journal. Kind of moving on down south in the AFC East with the Miami Dolphins. They're coming off a very disappointing season. They go 11-6 2 years ago. They lose terribly in the wild card round. They go 8-9 this past season and miss the playoffs. Tua has one of his worst seasons yet in the Mike McDaniel offense. They go 1-6 versus winning teams with a winning record. Their offense, which is supposed to be Mike McDaniel's calling card, fell to 22nd in points per game at 20 points. The defense was solid. It was 10th, allowing 21 points per game. But, they released Xavier Howard, their best corner. They're talking about trading Jalen Ramsey. Everyone's a year older on their defensive front. Their best edge rusher is coming off an Achilles tear. And so you just start to look at every team around them in the division improved since last season. Tua has another history of a season of scary concussions, injuries, not proving that he can stay healthy. Mike McDaniel's offense has regressed every single season that he's been the play caller, and you just start to have the makings of a very scary season in front of them. And so looking at their past season and their outlook for this season, my question to you, Liam, is do you think that Tua is even going to be able to hold up for a 17-game stretch?
And I don't know, just he's so injury prone, and then their offense has not improved. Really, their biggest offensive offseason signing was Zach Wilson, and they also drafted Quinn Ewers. So if I was Tua, I'd be like, well, how did you guys help us out get better this offseason? I mean, maybe they were like, hey, let's get better inside. All right, let's get better in-house. All right, everybody's going to get better. But, Tyreek doesn't have much time left. He's been questionable very frequently recently. They brought in Nick Westbrook out of Tennessee. Kind of I'm going to say touchdown merchant. You might be saying hey, that must be really good, right? No, he had hardly any yards outside of catching a touchdown, and he wasn't very helpful. He's not a very good wide receiver 3 in this case. Geno Smith is all right, but the offensive line is just so. I think it's one of the worst. I mean, PFF had them ranked pretty high, around the average area, but I'm just not a big fan. They all got older. They all got weaker, slower, and then especially with the division, like you said, Mason, they got better all around. I just don't see much positive sides of Miami's season this year. I think they're going to be a bottom feeder team, and in my opinion, well, I'm saying this as an outside fan looking in, I would probably blow up the thing. Ramsey wants to leave. Tyreek is probably a couple years out, and if he doesn't leave this year because he's upset, I don't know, what do you have? I mean, I like my running back room with Devon A-Chain and Jalen Wright, just drafted Ollie Gordon. You got a good young running back room there, but running backs are only good for about 4 years in the NFL, if that. So, I mean, I feel like they might have missed out, and who's to blame here, Mason? I don't know. McDaniels, Mason. I gotta ask you. I'm hearing a lot of bad stats about Mike McDaniel's win-loss record against good teams. Is he a legit coach in the National Football League?
Man, that's the question that a lot of NFL fans are asking. I think it's a multifaceted issue. You look who I think is the person that's survived all of this, dating back to Brian Flores, and I think he's been front office malpractice since your GM and Chris Greer. He started all the way off to kick off this era. He drafts Tua Tagovailoa over Justin Herbert. absolute whiff, miss, whatever you want to call it, Tua is not a better quarterback in this league than Justin Herbert. He's not. You do that, terrible. Awful pick. You go trade for Bradley Chubb, 2 first-round picks. Bradley Chubb, since coming to the Dolphins, he's had a whopping 18 sacks in 3 seasons, and you pay him $30 million a year. So you have an overpaid, super expensive, injury-prone edge rusher. Jalen Phillips, great draft pick. He's been injured every season of his career. So he's had some double-digit sack seasons. He's coming off an Achilles tear. So you've got a GM that's, basically making you coach with a hand tied behind your back, not investing in an offensive line. He says he's going to invest in it, and he goes and signs a old, very expensive left tackle in Teron Armstead, who only played 16 career games for the Dolphins and then retired, leaving your salary cap space in hell. So to answer your question, do I think Mike McDaniel is a bad NFL coach? No. I think he's a very innovative offensive mind. I think that his offense, you've seen the proof in the pudding in the NFL, when he has the personnel to make it work, it's some of the greatest show on turf. But the Achilles heel of his offense is it has to be built around his offensive line being able to get out in space, because their run scheme is built off of outside zone, truck, which is lead outside zone, mid zone, and inside zone. So you got your entire run scheme is a zone running scheme, but you don't have the offensive lineman that can run it. So then you're trying to design all of these very deep shot, short, intermediate throws to your fast guys, and you see the de-evolution of his offense. In 2022, they were the most explosive offense. 2020, and then 2024 last season, middle of the pack. This season, they're going to be one of the worst because they've turned their explosive passing offense into short, intermediate, hey, our run game's going to be quick wide receiver screens to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, which isn't sustainable. And so, to fully answer your question, I said he's a great offensive and a great innovative mind. As a head coach, I don't think he's a head coach in the National Football League. He has terrible game time decision making, like in-game, end-of-game situations. But more importantly, last season when their defense was doing good, he ran Vic Fangio out of town because he felt threatened by Vic Fangio. And what does Vic Fangio go do? He goes and wins a bowl with the Eagles. So for me, he just isn't great at managing personalities. You can see every veteran that's been on the team, with Jalen Ramsey requesting a trade out of there, you just see the cracks forming. And so I see the Dolphins are looking at the cliff, and they're just slowly getting ready to deep dive into it. And this rebuild, Liam, is going to be awful after this season.
Yeah, no, that's what I said. I think the best thing the Dolphins can look forward to is just blowing it up right now. But Mike McDaniel's being a head coach, he's a fantastic offensive coordinator. I mean, I know this wouldn't happen, but in a perfect world, I would just demote him to offensive coordinator and then bring in a guy like a big motivator guy like Mike Vrabel or Dan Campbell or Dan Quinn. I'd bring in a good mastermind of the game and overall everything and who can get the guys going. I don't think Mike McDaniels has that for offense and defense, and then the locker room managing that. I would demote him. I know Mike McDaniels will not do that. He would rather probably just leave and go somewhere else. But yeah, the Dolphins, Mason, I think we're both on the same page, and I wonder who else is on the same page. I think this is going to be a surprisingly bad year for the Dolphins. I haven't really heard anybody else talk about their worst teams. I mean, people are going to have the Saints, the Titans, the Browns there, but I think the Dolphins are going to be a surprisingly disappointing bad team, Mason.
I'm with you. And so then, do they trade Tyreek Hill midseason? Do they just have a fire sale?
That's one thing I thought of is, I don't know if, are they going to initiate the trade, or is Tyree going to say, man, we're coming up to the bye, we have a bad losing record.
Zach Wilson's playing week 8, throwing the football to the other football team.
Zach Wilson in, and they're threatening him with Quinn Ewers coming in. But will Tyreek Hill want to go, and is he going to want to go to someplace like the Bills? I know that in division would be wild, but teams that need a wide receiver 1, I think that would be insane. But are they going to blow it up with Ramsey and Hill gone, the two kind of older veterans, and then they got Waddle and Achane, and and Jonnu Smith. So I don't know. I'm just not seeing a lot of positive right now. The light at the end of the tunnel is actually going further every single week that they don't do something to help out the Dolphins right now.
Yeah, so anyways, Finns fans, if you think we got it wrong, sound off on X and let us know. Because, I don't think Tua can save McDaniel's job. I don't think McDaniel can save Tua's job. But you'll got to let us know if we're wrong. If you want them to rebuild or not, sound off and let us know in the comments below.
All right, this is my favorite team out of the AFC East to talk about this year, this offseason, is the New England Patriots. Last year after going 4-13, ever since Tom Brady left, they've been in a struggle. Mac Jones was not it. I feel like almost anybody with a pair of eyeballs could have told you that a while ago. They go 4-13, last in the AFC East, did not look good. A flash of greatness at the end, though, a glimmer of hope. Rookie quarterback Drake May comes in, hardly plays any of the games all the way through. Throws for a little bit under 2,000 yards, 11 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. But hey, it was garbage time. Who cares? Flash behind a trash O-line. Mason, you have them in the notes. You got them as 29th in pass blocking. I saw that they were ranked 31 out of 32 O-lines last season. Who can do anything besides that? If you're getting hit in the backfield, which we saw when we watched the games, that every run would have a hit behind the backfield, pass would be, QB pressure. Defense was legit, though. Pretty good. 8th, 19.2 points allowed. Christian Gonzalez, Gonzo as they call him, Kyle Duggar. They lost Kendrick Bourne, Jacoby Brissett. He's one of those traveling quarterbacks. They added... they got Milton Williams and Morgan Moses, great trenches. Ramondre Stevens is still back, and they picked up running back in the draft. So I'm looking really forward to these Patriots, making the playoffs. I got them making the playoffs at 10-7. Got them losing to the Raiders week 1, but after that they got a kind of easy schedule. Drake May has a full offseason as the main guy. He's going to get a lot of work in as the one. Let's go back to that O-line. They picked up Will Campbell. They picked up Morgan Moses. And Mike Onwenu, he has some legit talent. So, and then they also picked up in the offseason, in the free agency, Milton Williams from Philadelphia. So, Mason, I got a question. There's a lot of trenches action here. Does this have Mike Vrabel's handwriting all over it?
It absolutely does. That's why this was such a home run hire for them. Mike Vrabel embodies the Patriot way and embodies the way they've historically built their teams. And you just look back at what he did when he went and built the Titans. He built them from the inside out. At the Titans, he started with Taylor Lewan and Jack Conklin as the tackle duo. He had Derrick Henry, he had A.J. Brown, had Ryan Tannehill. On defense, he had Jeffrey Simmons, Harold Landry, Bud Dupree. He built them through the trenches. Now you look at what he's doing with the Patriots. He goes and drafts Will Campbell, who is the ultimate Mike Vrabel culture setter. Literally, he is sitting there saying he's going to fight, die, and protect for Drake May, his new franchise quarterback. You got him at left tackle for the next 10 years. You got to remember they drafted Cole Strange at guard in the first round 3 years ago, and everyone lambasted the pick saying he had a third-round grade. He's quietly been a top 15 guard in the league. So you've got them walking down the left side. At center, you got Garrett Bradbury, who's been a starter in Minnesota for 4 seasons until he got injured this past season. Kind of fell out of favor with their coaching staff. Now he's over in New England. So you've got a center, young center, 26 years old, that has started 4 seasons. You got Michael Onwenu, who is started at tackle 4. He started at guard. He's played at a slightly below Pro Bowl level, but above average level. And you got Morgan Moses, who's been in the league for 11 seasons and is going to provide a steady presence. So right there, going 1 through 5 with your offensive line. It's all names a casual fan should be able to recognize, and it's going to provide Drake May the foundation that he's going to need on offense. You've got a strong offensive line. You've got Ramondre Stevenson and Travion Henderson. You've got a stable of 2 running backs you're able to run the football with, and you've got a very safe floor. But if you turn over and look at the defensive side, that's where this team is going to make leaps and bounds. Their secondary, it might be one of, if not the best secondary in football. Christian Gonzalez, I sincerely think, is going to come out and he's going to be a top 3 corner. I think he's going to be better than Sauce Gardner. He's going to be the best corner in the division. Yeah. hot take, I know, but Christian Gonzalez, coverage stats wise, blows Sauce Gardner out of the water. Got him with Jabril Peppers, Kyle Duggar. They go and trade for Carlton Davis, Pro Bowl corner from the Bucks, and you can see the makings of a team that is going to have drastic improvement from a 4-13 season. So they spent their money well this offseason. They've added talent where they needed to add it, and I am curious to see how they're going to propel into the future. And so, my question to you, Liam, is with the foundation that Mike Vrabel has set on both offense and defense, will Drake May's second-year leap be able to jumpstart them to the playoffs, or will that leap not happen?
I think he's definitely going to have a leap. I mean, at the beginning of when Drake May started to play, they kept on putting him in when the game was pretty much done, when the game was pretty much, hey, this is pretty terrible, we're going to let you go in, save us, please. And then he'd go out there and show some talent, but I mean, they got their second strings in, the defense, I don't know, it's just, that didn't make sense to me. I hate it when they make a rookie quarterback try to be their savior when they have problems of their own. And so, this year, finally, like I said before, he has the whole offseason as the QB1, which is great for him to get all those reps. They brought on a ton of talent, a good coach. I think they're going to have a huge leap right here. And if you're worried about sophomore slump, I would technically not count that first season as his rookie season. I think it's still going, which he doesn't have a sophomore slump then. He has some great touch passes. He has a great deep ball, which is going to connect great with Kyle Williams. And later in the season, when Stephon Diggs comes back, they got a solid tight end. They got a solid running back room. They fixed the O-line, which was the biggest problem last year. Drake May, surrounded by this amazing coaching staff and this amazing offensive line and the talent around him at the skills positions and this great secondary defense. I'm really looking forward to see the Patriots go away, in 10-7, make the playoffs. It's going to be a close one between the Raiders and the Jets and the Chiefs and all of them. So I'm really rooting for the Patriots right here, man.
Yeah, I just think they have the makings of a football team you're not going to play in December. Names that I didn't even mention that are there. You got Harold Landry back from the Tennessee days. You got Robert Spillane, fresh off 140 tackles for the Raiders. And you've got Christian Barmore in the interior with Milton Williams. This is a football team that if Drake May plays up to even half of the potential that we think he can,
what he's shown,
and he protects the football, you play great defense, and you play to the Mike Vrabel way with their schedule, they could easily, we're going to look up, they're going to be 10-7, and we'll be like, what the hell, how did this happen? And they're going to be the 7th seed in the wild card round. So I think you're absolutely right on that, Liam.
Yeah, I got them exactly at 10-7 and number 7 in the wild card round. I've been through it a couple times with them. I just see it as a 10-7. It's not just, we're not just saying that the Patriots are going to be amazing. It's also because their schedule helps them out. Starting out, let me go to the week 2 because I know they play the Raiders week 1, which is going to be a great game. I think looking at the new Raiders and the Patriots, they go and play Miami. A really bad Miami. We already discussed that. And then they go and play Pittsburgh, which right now doesn't look very attractive to pick as the winner. And then they're going to go over to Carolina. I got them beating out Carolina just by a little bit. And then after that, they got the Bills. They're going to lose to the Bills. 6, 7, and 8, though, are what I want to talk about because they can definitely come in and beat the Saints that have no quarterback right now. They can definitely come in and beat the Titans. Mike Vrabel is definitely going to want his revenge. And then they're going to play Cleveland. Alright, so now we're at week 9, they play the Falcons. But right there, they can easily go like 6-2 very easily, and 7-1 if they just take care of business week 1. But the ceiling is pretty high for a team that was just 4-13 and just had the 5th overall pick this year of the draft. This is a huge turnaround for the Patriots. Everybody else is probably looking around saying, not again. I don't want to see the Patriots taking over again. But for Boston, these years have really been trash since Tom left, and so now this is probably going to be the best season in a long time for them.
And it's going to be a culture-defining one. So, Patriots fans, you'll have to let us know, is this a return to the Patriot way? Is this going to be the next 20-year dynasty with Mike Vrabel and Drake May? Is the Dark Empire going to return in the National Football League? Sound off on X. Let us know at the Sideline Journal. Now it's time to drop the bomb, the moment you've been waiting for the entire episode, we've kind of mentioned it a little bit, but here is how the AFC East is going to shake out in our way too early predictions. We've got the Bills at 14-3. They're favored 15 out of their 17 games. I think Allen is going to go on a MVP-like run. I don't know if he's going to win it back-to-back, but I think they're going to crush the softer schedule. They only play 5 playoff teams this season, and I think they're going to crush that mid-game stretch against the Saints, Panthers, Buccaneers, and the Patriots twice, and I think that their additions are going to carry them through.
Yeah, and as much as I hate to say it, yeah, they're going to beat the Patriots probably twice. You know, the Bills are just the Bills. They're the powerhouse right now in the AFC North. They're a powerhouse in the AFC. I got them as the number 2 team to finish the season, but yeah, this is going to be way too hard for the Patriots right now. Speaking of that, Patriots going 9-8. Vrabel, this is a vast improvement from 4-13, right? Vrabel's fire and the early softies are going to spark some wins. They do play the Bills. The Chargers are going to be a good team. But then, the Cardinals, they got plenty of hope to definitely get close to the wild card. That's going to be this is why every week is so important. Because some of those games earlier, are the Raiders going to steal their spot into the wild card? Are the Bengals going to steal their spot? Are the Colts going to steal their spot? This is why they have to start the season so strong, because when it comes down to the wire at the end, one mess up is it going to cost the Patriots fun, rookie season of this new era? Is it going to cost them a playoff spot?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're kind of right on the head there. I think it's going to be 1 or 2 games that are going to define going all the way down to week 17 or 18 between the Bengals, Colts, and the Patriots, or the Raiders even, or the Broncos in the AFC West, who's going to decide that last playoff seed. So we're just going to see how it shakes out. And kind of, looking at the Jets, we have them finishing 3rd. We have them at 7-10. I personally think they're going to start off early. You think they're going to start off, they're going to pick up late. Either way, I think they're going to have a lull in the middle of the season where they're going to, against the Ravens, the Steelers, and I see the Jags as a trap game. And so I think it's going to kill their momentum. They're going to end up around 7-10. I think they're going to be able to have a culture to build off of. I think that Garrett Wilson is going to have a top 10 wide receiver type season. I think Breece Hall is going to cement himself as a really great running back, and I think you're going to have your tackle duos of the future, and it's going to kind of build that momentum going into season number 2.
Yeah, we should have talked about Breece Hall. Running backs after they have terrible injuries, ACL, MCL, whatever, Achilles, it's the second year after is when we really see them take off. So Breece Hall being so good last year, coming off like a little bit of a scary injury, this year is definitely going to be his shining moment. He splits it with Braylon Allen, but still, I really think Breece Hall is definitely going to get that 1,000 rushing yards. But like you said, Aaron Glenn. I think everybody's high on Aaron Glenn. Really good defense. But Justin Fields, is he going to have the Jets quarterback curse affect him? He already doesn't have that great of a completion percentage. He's a great rusher, and I'm going to tell everybody to try to get him in fantasy football. But as a Jets fan, when you have to sit there every Sunday and watch them, are you going to be screaming, ripping out your hair, saying, "Why does Justin keep on doing this?" But 7-10. That's a vast improvement too. I might have them maybe going 8-9, 9-8. Who knows? But 7-10. That's probably really accurate, especially with, like you said, the Jags is a trap game. I think the Jags are just going to be a slow riser throughout the season. So getting a trap game in the middle, I think the Jets are going to take it easy, and Trevor Lawrence is going to be hitting on all cylinders. Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be balling. Liam Cohen is finally going to have the guys where he wants them, and he has that figured out. So 7-10 feels pretty right here, Mason.
Yeah, absolutely. And, kind of looking at the Dolphins record, or kind of transitioning to them, I got them projected at 5-12. I think they're going to be the worst team in the division. I think they're going to be fighting for the number 1 overall pick. And with that, the reason that we arrived at that is, Tua, every single season he's been a starting quarterback. He's never played 17 games. Last season he missed 6 starts. The season before that he missed 4 or 5. And their late game stretch against the Bills and the Steelers and the Niners, all away games in December, cold weather games. They were 0-4 in cold weather games last season. They've been 2-10 versus winning teams, the Mike McDaniel era, and the road heavy slate of being 5 out of 8 of their final games. I think it's going to seal their collapse. I think it's going to end the season for them with a lot of questions at quarterback, a lot of questions at head coach, and a lot of questions at GM.
Yeah, I mean, like, the Dolphins going 5-12 could honestly be pretty generous, too. I mean, there's just not a lot of positive stuff to look at them right now with their, what have they done this offseason? Mike McDaniels, is he really the guy? And then their entire division got better. Every team that they have to play twice, so what is that going to do to the players there and their mindset? And then what's Jalen Ramsey and Tyreek going to do? So, yeah, I mean, the Dolphins is pretty sad, but, you know, this is what you do when you become stagnant and when you have this internal conflict with your authority figures with Mike McDaniels, the reports that we're hearing. So, yeah, Mason, I think this projected records is pretty solid, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like, looking at it now, you know, you see the records, you know, who we have projected as division winner. We have the Bills. You know, Josh Allen is 24-6 versus the AFC East since 2020. And I think the softer schedule is going to lock in that 6th title. ESPN Bet has their odds at 62.4%, plus 150. Go smash that. Take that now because that's odds are going to drop. And I just think that Miami's drama, their crippling bad contracts, they're aging, no improvement. I don't think they're going to be a threat in the division, and it's going to kill their shot. My question, Liam, is do you think that the Patriots have a chance to steal it?
No, and as much as I would like to say that, no, they're not going to steal it because the Bills are just too good, man. What do you think?
Yeah, I know I asked the question. I mean, if I'm putting on my dreaming hat and my dreaming glasses, I could see it. But, I mean, the Bills are 36-6 at Highmark Stadium going into its last season. And their early divisional stretch, weeks 2 through 5, they start off hot against the Ravens, then go week 2 through 5. They could be 5-0, already 3-0 in the division, and it's already kind of wrapped up before they even hit the hard part of their season. And
they have a chance, yeah.
Exactly. So, I mean, looking at that, our official predictions as well this early in the offseason is we have one playoff team with the Buffalo Bills, 14-3, having the top seed in the AFC. We have the Patriots at 9-8, maybe 10-7. It's just all going to depend on how those tiebreakers end up in the last season. Like, I think you're going to look at the Bengals, the Raiders, and the Patriots. And then if Mike Tomlin, Aaron Rodgers cook up some magic with the Steelers, you're going to have 4 teams racing for that 7th seed. But, I mean, looking at it right now, that's what I've got.
Yeah, and like that AFC West, you got the Chargers and Chiefs. I got them as the playoff teams. You got the Texans as a playoff team, Ravens and Bills. So really, you're looking at 2, 4, 5. You already got 5 spots sealed up. So for the AFC, who's going to be those 2? You know, Colts, Bengals, Raiders, Patriots. Those are my top 4 that I got going on. So that's going to be interesting. Every single week is going to be a playoff game for them.
Any given Sunday, absolutely. And so, I mean, y'all have to let us know who is your AFC East champ. Did we get it right? Did we get it wrong? Sound off below. If you're mad about it, at me specifically, I'd love to debate. And so kind of like a final thermometer hot seat check with these projected finishes, you know, if they play out this way, Aaron Glenn, Mike Vrabel, they're safe. They're entering year 1. They're taking over horrific situations. They're building a culture. And if those teams come out being 9-8, 7-10, they might already be wanting to extend those coaches. And so what I'm looking at, though, is the Dolphins. They finished 5-12. Do they fire Mike McDaniel? Do they fire Chris Greer? Do they fire both? Do they run it back? Liam, how do you see it playing out?
I think the hot seat is on 10 right now, the max. Mike McDaniels can't even sit down. I mean, I just see why wouldn't you take a look at him and fire him if they don't even have, if they go like even 6-11, I'd probably say, yeah, you're out of here. And who's to say if they have a terrible start, why wouldn't they get rid of them then? I mean, it's just not looking good, especially with all the rumored drama that goes on in the locker room, office, and the meetings. So I think it is nuclear, Mason. And then also, let's say the Bills have another, playoff loss that's incredibly disappointing. We already hit on how they are a good team. Mason, is Mike McDermott potentially looking at a hot seat?
That's rumblings that no one really wants to talk about around the league. He's the fourth longest tenured head coach in the league, but out of the top 5 tenured head coaches, he's the only one that has never been to a Super Bowl or won a Super Bowl. And yes, there is the big bad magician Patrick Mahomes in the league, but this season, I think there's no question they have got to make it to the Super Bowl at least win against Mahomes in the playoffs, or I could see Bills Mafia, Bills Nation, the league at large start to turn on Sean McDermott and question should he still be the head coach. But y'all, that's the kind of hot seat, roundup. Let us know if we got it right, we got it wrong. Do you, as a fan of your team, know something that we don't? Sound off below in the comments and let us know. Well, guys, what a brawl in the AFC East. That's how every division is in the AFC. We have the Bills owning the East. The Pats and Jets are going to be scrapping and fighting their way through. And we have the Dolphins ship sinking and crashing. So, between Allen's MVP, Vrabel's fire, and McDaniel's hot seat stole the show, Liam.
Man, I cannot believe Miami they watched the ship go down. I just can't believe they would do that. Looking forward to the new New York Jets, or the Bills are probably most definitely going to stay on top, and then the new Patriots as well. 2 new teams, a returning king, and then a sinking ship. AFC East is going to be fun.
Absolutely.
Hey, and speaking of AFC East, next week we're going to be doing the AFC South. We're rounding out the AFC, going down to the South, seeing how C.J. Stroud and the Texans are, Trevor Lawrence and Travis Hunter. Are they going to be able to connect on offense? We've only been seeing wide receiver videos from him. And then Liam Cohen, is he going to be able to coach up those Jaguars? And then also the Colts quarterback roulette. What are they going to do, Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones? Which one is right? Which one is wrong? And then their brand new first-round quarterback, first overall, Cam Ward. What are the Colts looking like? They brought in a ton of people in free agency. Tyler Lockett, they brought in some linemen, they brought in some other wide receivers, some defensive players too. What are they going to do? Do they have a good outlook on their season, Mason? I'm excited to talk about that next.
We're going to have to see. It's going to be another explosive episode. This division, this conference is just full of chaos. So to make sure you don't miss it, follow us on X, smash that subscribe button, follow us on Instagram for more Sideline Files drops, and then hit our link tree down below. We're going to be launching some content maybe on our Patreon, maybe not, over the AFC East prop bets. But the most important thing is throw your wildest takes, hashtag AFC East Warroom, because we're going to shout out the spiciest one next week on our Instagram. And so, Liam, that's just the lay of the land. We got the Thunder, winning again next week, going to the finals, and if that happens, I'll be getting a New York pizza and enjoying that game.
Hey, if the Thunder make it to the finals by next week, I'm gonna shave my head. Just kidding, I will not be doing that. Mason, you might get a little Cash App coffee for you. They'll celebrate.
Absolutely. Hey, y'all make Liam shave his head. Shave his head. Nope. All right, find out next week if Liam Carr shaves his head or not. Peace out. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Warroom podcast presented by the Sideline Journal. Please consider subscribing. It really helps us out and following along on our journey. It is our goal to deliver some of the best sports takes and cutting-edge analysis out there. Peace out. Hope to catch you in the next one.